Well, good afternoon, everybody. I have an amazing, beautiful guest from northern BC as well. Martina is joining us from the gorgeous Telqua. So she gets to peek at the Telqua River and look at the beautiful mountains and Smithers and just be held by this beautiful, energetic space that Telqua is. And she is a mom and a wife and an author and this amazing retreat leader and circle host and not to mention volunteer firefighter. And I believe her husband is the chief in Telqua, and then I and her kids also are part of the fire department. So that's kind of how we met, and it's just kind of built from there. And so I wanted to bring Martina on today just to let her share her magic and her vision, a little bit about her journey, and kind of how we are where we are, and teaching what we teach, and hosting and holding space for our clients as they come in to get to know who we are in individuals, and we are also percolating beautiful things together. A beautiful pop-up winter retreat in Smithers at the end of the month, the 28th of February to March 3rd, and many things to come. So please share a little bit about your journey, how you ended up where you are, and some of the beautiful pieces of that along the way.
All right. So, hello. I'm so excited and grateful, Raya, first of all, for having me on here. I think that, you know, the universe has brought us together, which, like you've already kind of elaborated on, as we kind of started to get to know each other. I loved all of the coincidences and the connections that were coming up. It's like, oh my gosh, you do this too. You do this too. Like fire service and the healing spaces. And it's like,
Yeah.
wow, it's like little mirror images of each other. So I love that. So
Yes.
um, it's been a beautiful, yeah, it's just been such a beautiful, welcoming journey on coming to the Northwest. I used to be up in northern BC and now kind of coming more west, northwest. So it's been such a beautiful change for my own healing and confidence and my journey on forward. Um, so I guess a little bit about me, which you've already kind of elaborated on. Um, you know, how I kind of got here is,
Yeah.
it's such a big question, but at the same time, um, my journey kind of started out from a very broken place, as a lot of our journeys do. There's lots of healing that goes into now us holding these spaces for other people. We kind of had to be there at one point, or we still put ourselves in, our journey is it's always changing. It's always this up and down. Um, but throughout my journey, it's become more clear on my place in this world, and kind of the container I am supposed to be holding for others. But that came from a place of being that a very broken person for a long time. So
Mhm.
to kind of give a Cole's Notes version is, I lived a lot of my 20s and 30s in a place of really low body image, low self
Mhm.
esteem, body dysmorphia, treating my body in a way that wasn't serving it properly.
Mhm.
Um, yo yo dieted for years. And a lot of my messaging when I started my journey was really based upon diet culture and the societal pressures around,
Yeah.
your size indicating your worth. And so I went through a lot of those years of not feeling worthy of anything, not worthy of good relationships, not worthy of, good careers or good, even parenting. Like it kind of reflected all areas of my life. Um, and so from that kind of broken state of really just beating myself up every day, feeling so worthless and not good enough, and all these things kind of led me down this spiritual journey. So it started kind of from teaching yoga. I got my yoga teacher training, I think 13, 14 years ago now. And that kind of led me down the spiritual path. So as I kind of
Mhm.
started, being surrounded by these yoga spaces and these containers where it felt safe to move your body without
Mhm.
judgment, without shame, and really connecting back to the body, that started leading down the whole other rabbit holes of just connecting back to the body. coming home to the body. And that's one thing that I've always given yoga kind of props for my own journey is um, it brought me back home to my body because there was a long time that my body wasn't home.
Yeah.
Um, so, kind of morphing into, building upon my practice, adding more tools, um, putting myself in these really uncomfortable situations, I remember going to my first retreat where I'm like, I need to, keep this healing journey going. Um, so many uncomfortable moments, so much stepping out of comfort zones,
Yeah.
so much trying things that I never thought I would try. But it's led me to such a beautiful place of knowing, number one, that I am worthy, that I am enough. And yes, there's moments that I still doubt myself. And that's where I think people don't understand. They sometimes think that we have it all figured out as people who hold these spaces for others, but
No, we don't.
um, we don't. We are
No.
still struggling, and we have to be really mindful to, like Raya, you and I just talked about this before we started, of practicing what we preach.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, so then, I guess coming to this space of being a space holder and a person that facilitates people's healing. And that's, I always try and stay away from the word that I am a healer, because we aren't healers in the sense that we are just providing these safe spaces for people
Mhm.
to facilitate their own healing.
Yeah.
Um, we, because we can't do the work for them.
No.
Just like no one can do the work for me. It was a self-led journey, but I had so many beautiful mentors and people that empowered and inspired and held these safe spaces for me to be able to do that. So I love being that person for other people now. And it's been so cup filling and emotional and heartwarming and transformative. Um, so yeah, so like I'm going to pause there because I don't want to go too deep into all the other things. Did you have
Yeah.
any thoughts, Raya?
Well, it's interesting because we talk about the journey, we talk about the transformation, and I think what we see when, as you and I are working with groups, and even when we're working just with one to one with people, we're merely the guide that holds the space, and we walk alongside our clients. We take the
Yeah,
journey with them because
yeah,
we're not going to be done healing in this lifetime. And
no.
if we don't have a pulse, then I guess we're not healing anymore because we're on to the next round. But we're constantly evolving and growing and changing. Our toolkits are always evolving and growing and changing with us. And we talk about, you living right near the Telco River. The beautiful
Yeah,
thing about healing is it's not linear, like you were mentioning, and it's not predictable. It's not any of those things. That's the growth and the transformation. When you follow a river, it is bendy and windy and twisty, and it goes over obstacles, around things. It always finds its way, but it might
yeah,
have to find a new spot because there's some obstacles in the way. So it figures out, okay, well, where do I go best? So it finds its direction, but it always reaches the ocean or the lakes. It always finds its destination. And
hmm,
but along the journey, there is so much self discovery. There's old paths, there's new paths, there's obstacles, there's all the things. So as we are 70-75% water ourselves, we really relate
hmm,
to the journey of water and to that
yeah,
energy of water. And so that's kind of an interesting piece on our in our work, our private work, our self work,
hmm,
our self discovery. um, and I think that's the really amazing space is we know what it's like to be on the other side as someone who steps vulnerability, like complete vulnerability, into these spaces, scared to death, but shows up
yeah,
anyway and goes, you know
yes,
what? I'm being pulled and I don't know why, but I
yeah,
do know why, but I don't know why. And we just trust that heart open space,
hmm,
and we show up and we don't know exactly what we're going to get from it,
yeah,
or any of those things, but the universe is leading us, our guides are leading us in the direction where we are to be and into the depths of the work that we do. So what I'm really curious about, so you've got these beautiful, transformative journey that you're on. Where did the volunteer fire department, how did that land in your space and in your heart? And what
yeah.
did that look like as that evolved? I'm really curious.
Yeah. So the fire service has always been a part of my life. My dad was a deputy chief growing up, so of course I grew up around the tones and that environment and that type of,
Mhm.
um, that type of, being around firefighters growing up, being around that environment. Um, never probably growing up thought that I can't wait to be that. But it just kind of it ended up that it became a whole family mission. Like I had a sister-in-law, my sister, my dad, my husband. We were all on the fire department at the same time. So it really so I joined the fire service when I started dating my now husband. Um, and it was that family piece. It was that
Mhm.
safe people like you, and that's how, I always love to kind of look at the two of being very similar spaces but just very differently led. So, like
Yeah.
the circles and the retreats are very feminine led from a very sacred feminine space, where the fire service is that masculine part of my being.
Yeah.
um and so being surrounded by a predominantly male dominated environment, and but it felt the same though. It feels like that safe those safe people that you can
Mhm.
ask for help if you needed help. It's those safe people who you trust to go into a building with, to show up on the side of the highway to rescue someone. Like you really develop that really deep trust with your fire service crew, the same as you do with holding circles
Yeah.
and retreats. So it's just a very it's the opposite ends of the masculine feminine, where I think I love the balance of it.
Yeah.
How I get to be around that masculine energy and feel very strong and capable and a part of, such a beautiful space to hold for people who are in their, potentially really challenging part of their life, to the softer side of the feminine of the retreats and the circles, where we get
Mhm.
to hold space for people in a different way. So um, for me, I think the fire service, so that's kind of how I came into it. And then how we've stayed with it is just that. It's that, the minute that we have moved to communities, because we've been in 3 different communities now, as my husband and I, and each community you create. The minute you walk into that fire hall, you're welcomed by a whole family of people who
Mhm.
take you in and accept you as one of their own, and just you grow together, right? So, um, yeah, so the fire service has come with its own challenges, I think, for me too, being a larger person. On That's where, the part of my journey where I still have doubts and I still question my abilities based upon my size. And,
Yeah.
that's definitely, it's a societal pressure thing too, of like, oh, you can't. And I've had that. Like, I've had so many different people along my journey of like, what do you mean you're a firefighter? Like, don't you have to be physically fit to be a firefighter? Or,
Yeah.
and it's like, so the judgment on based upon of how I look is that I'm not strong, that I'm not capable.
Mhm.
Um, where the fire service, and that's one thing that I always mention to people, is that the fire service, there's a job for everybody. And
Mhm.
I do think that I am strong. Like I can pull like a 400-pound man across the floor if I had to. Like,
Yep.
because you develop strategies and tools and things that help make the job easier. And it's all about being a part of something bigger and being a part of something that it challenges you. It
Mhm.
pushes your envelope on what you think you can do. Um, and, I think that's also led me to these places of with my retreats and circles and all the healing spaces I provide. It gives you that extra confidence of like, hey, if I can do this, then I can sure as hell do this. you know?
Yeah. Right.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of the journey of the fire service. And, I do think that there's the integration piece too, where as I evolve in my journey, I slowly start to drop little things of integration into the fire service, of really coming from a place of either the mental wellness in the fire service. And that's something I'm really passionate about too, on promoting the mental wellness side of firefighting, and the taking care of yourself. And like in the critical incidents, I served on like a critical incident team for a lot of years too, where just being that safe person for fellow firefighters who are going through tough situations, tough calls, that kind of stuff, right? So, yeah,
So cool. You know what I see in our near future? I think we should have a first responders retreat.
I know. I
It,
know.
but we're gonna plant that seed into the universe and just see where that goes. I've thought that for a long time,
I know. I've
but
always thought that too. And
yeah,
like I've recently, I'm sit on the board of directors for the Fire Service Women of BC, and um, there's been so many wonderful opportunities within that organization too already. And I see this all going to very much a place where we can integrate more of the healing side with the fire service because they have, as firefighters, we have such high stress, high
yeah,
anxiety, potentially jobs or volunteer jobs where we're
yeah,
not getting paid.
yeah,
That we need to take that time, and especially together, like taking that
yeah,
time together as a crew to do those events where you're kind of creating that healing environment too, right? So
yeah.
yeah, I definitely believe that is something that will happen in the future for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's so fascinating how, I mean, all those pieces, right? And I get to see it from a different side. So, with my husband being on the department for 30 years, I get to see it from the spousal side.
Yeah.
And then my oldest daughter, joining and become a junior member, and now she's moved communities and now has joined a new department and taken herself out there, being
Yeah.
scared and showing up anyway. And now my youngest one, who's going to be this September, she'll be able to apply to join as a junior.
Mhm.
And my husband's dad being on the department, like, so all that kind of that familial piece is there for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And my daughter's growing up in the department, and it's so fascinating how it is that family, it's that sacred space, it's that safe space. You're held, everybody looks out for you,
Yeah.
checks in on you, loves you, nourishes you. Like when things are all over the place, you know that you have this rock,
Mhm.
this
Yeah.
place, this chosen family. And that's really fascinating too, is we choose that,
Yeah. Yeah.
just as we do with our soul family and our soul tribe. Outside of that, in the work that you're doing and I'm doing and we're coming
Mhm.
together to do, is really choosing. So people are choosing us as
Yeah.
their extended new soul family, and a place where they're feeling safe and drawn to. Maybe don't always know why, but they're like, hey, that person, I resonate,
Mhm.
I feel safe, I want to come into that container, I want to work with them. It's really beautiful how that just happens so organically. And I
Yeah.
mean, the universe is working with us all the time. And it just brings in these beautiful pieces that we just get to grow upon.
Mhm.
It's like cultivating that garden in the winter. We've planted all the seeds. Now we're just kind of nourishing those seeds. And
Yeah.
as spring comes, all the things will start to come to life, and we'll be able to see it in a different way in the new season. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Cool. There's so many things. I mean, you are just doing or finishing your reflexology. You've done some tapping and chakra work and
Yeah.
Reiki. Like, it just doesn't end. Like, you've got this resume that's about 5 miles long, and I know you're really really passionate about your writing, and about sharing your stories, and you've been published quite a lot as well, and continue to do that, and help others to share their voice, because a lot of that time, we come across a lot of people who in that throat chakra are very, they
Mhm.
want to share their voice but they don't know how. And I feel like you've inspired so many, in what that looks like, and in holding that space to say, hey, it doesn't matter if maybe you don't know how to write, or maybe you're dyslexic, or
Yeah.
maybe you struggle, or you've never been heard, but hey, I can create this safe space for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's go on that journey too. So there's all these pieces. You're really working with the energetic person, the whole being, that mind, body, spirit, and all the things in between. So, it's kind of, it's a really unique place to hold. Like, we don't hold just one job
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
one position. We have this plethora of things that we do, and we just keep adding to it,
Yeah.
because we're curious and we're learners, and we always want to serve in the best way we can. So sometimes that means, us going out and being vulnerable and bringing in all these new tools and pieces
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think
we have that.
that's an important piece of it is that like we've already said, that the healing journey is, you know, it's not linear. It goes up and down like the river flows, right?
Yeah.
Like there's and I think that and I guess that's a portion of why I love offering a multitude of mediums for people
Yeah.
to heal with, right? Is, you know, I've, whether it be the magazine, whether it be a book collaboration where people are submitting chapters or submitting a poem, um, to people coming to circles, people coming to retreats, it provides a very variety of things that
Mhm.
people can heal with. Like I feel
Yeah.
like the story side of how I'm helping people is there's so much power, and I've witnessed that through the book collaborations and the magazines that we've done, is that healing by sharing your story, writing it down on paper, and putting it out, pressing that publish button. It provides people with such an intense level of kind of closure and completion and healing that part of that journey.
Yeah.
And it's hard. Like the writing process and the book collaboration process is a whole journey within itself, because people will be willing and ready to share their story. They start to write and they just, there's all these little pieces of trauma that start coming out in their stories of
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, that's a little unhealed piece of me. Um, so it becomes such a journey just writing those stories with people too. So I find there's, I guess that's why I love I always call myself squirrely. My squirrely way of being is that I want to help people in whatever way works for them, just because,
Yeah.
if retreats isn't your thing, then maybe circles are, or maybe the fire service is, or maybe sharing your story is. Um, because I know that's something I find even in the fire service. I do find I value myself as being a person who is that safe person for people who are just joining the hall. I really love to
Yeah.
create that connection right away of just like, you got this. You're going to be able to do it. Let's get you set up. Let's get you comfortable. Let's empower you to feel like you got
Yeah.
this, right? So, and that's what I guess my theme is of a lot of the work I do is
Yeah.
I get lit up when I see other people lit up, right? Like, and I think, you can resonate with that, I'm sure. So,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, so fun.
It's such a, it's really interesting because I mean, you and I lead with such an open heart. And, it's really hard to put into words what that feels like, what that piece of our journey is to,
Mhm.
welcome people in like that and to make them feel, you know, like they've landed in just the perfect spot and we've got them. We've
Yeah.
got them. We're holding the banks of this beautiful sacred space and we do it in the most authentic, real, vulnerable way. And one of the things that was really interesting to me that I was just thinking as you were chatting is, what is it like to come home to yourself, to that deep connection of that soul within, like you described your path with all of these things that really brought you to where you are today, and what is it like to be here
Yeah.
within yourself now?
I love that. I think the first word that comes to mind for me is freedom. Um, because I think, and I've said that a lot in my own journey when I've experienced these kind of like, the fork in the road where I could have went down this path, but I went down this path. And the path that I've chosen has always had this intense, very powerful, emotional response of being free, of having freedom to feel like I can live within this body and not be ashamed of it. Freedom
Yeah.
to, chase whatever dreams I have
Yeah.
with the freedom to say I can do it. Because I think that was a lot of my programming throughout my healing journey is like, I will do this when. I will be a retreat leader when I look a certain way. I will write a book when I have all these courses behind me. It was always conditional. So
Yeah.
I feel like the main word for my journey has been the freedom I've experienced by not holding myself back because of who I am now, who I've been, like, and yeah,
Yeah.
so I think the biggest thing for me, and that's what I wish for other people, and it's always been something I've kind of really kind of made people think about is I want these containers, these spaces that I'm creating, I want you to feel free to be yourself in those spaces. And I
Yeah.
have, like, I have a friend who was very, you know, just one example, she was very hesitant about coming to one of my the first time coming to one of my events, and I told her, I'm like, just keep in your mind as we're going to go through this, it's going to be hard, it's going to be uncomfortable, there's maybe going to be tears, there's maybe going to be, you know, the fear set in, but it's all an invitation. But at the end of it too, it's like, I desire you to feel the way I have felt, like that freedom to just be who you are, dance how you are, like all these different things, right? So freedom is what I would explain it.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And it's like, you know, the beauty of a butterfly. The butterfly can't see how beautiful it is, but we can. And it just
Yeah.
has this most transformative, gorgeous journey that it um, has in its life. And I
Hmm.
feel like, you know, we do choose as a soul, we choose our bodies, we choose
Yeah.
our soul connection, our soul trial. Like all of these things are chosen. And what
Hmm.
is it? Is it so that you could come to that place of freedom? And then you could now take all of what you've learned on your journey and share that forward and help others come into that freedom within,
Yeah.
which is really,
Yeah.
really a beautiful part of your journey. And I think, um, you know, I know for me, you know, I'm going to be 50 very soon. And as we were chatting about in other conversations, you know, what is it like for women to come into this stage? It's a very
Hmm.
wise wisdom stage, but then there's that
Yeah.
stage of, you know, all these other pieces of us are long past over there, and
Yeah.
we're really sitting in this perimenopause menopause stage, which for women is
Hmm.
really transformative. It's
Yeah.
so big, it's so big, but yet it's very magical, because I think that landing within and that coming home and that basically not giving a you know what about what other people think about us, it gets stronger
Hmm.
and stronger as you get
Yeah.
closer to 50, and that 50 to
Yeah.
60 range. I've talked to so many women who are like, you finally just don't give a shit. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's what this is. Okay, you're gonna make me work my butt off
I'm
to here
ready.
and then, right? But
Yeah. No,
so
it's so
it,
true.
it's so true, and it's really fascinating. I love the journey. It just everything fascinates me so much, and I just love
Hmm.
being able to be so curious and having that sense of childlike wonder with like everything that I'll never grow out
Yeah.
of, which I love. And I know you have that too. Those squirrels that
Yeah.
are like all over and they're going crazy. You're like, just wait, I can't keep up. Hang on, you
Yeah.
know, which is
Yeah.
fun because that's also, we bring that to the work that we do. We bring that to our clients
Yes.
and our retreats, which is really fun because it brings that really, even more safety to the space, because we can just let loose and just be that, you
Yeah.
know, all those versions of us that are just waiting to
Oh, I
play,
know.
right?
Yeah. And it is that so much. I love the inner child work too. Like you said, the playfulness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love bringing that aspect as well, because a lot of the work that we do is so heavy and so emotional and so, like, you know,
Yeah.
impactful, where we got to bring in that childlike play too, because you know, that way you can kind of experience both aspects of healing, right? So, yeah, I
Yeah.
love
So
it.
that
Mhm.
was interesting too, because we have, you know, we've had many conversations outside of here, but
Yeah.
we talked about, you know, the use of drumming and song and dance and movement, even the artistic crafty side. So that also within our retreats helps people to dive in and to take back those layers a little bit in a
Mhm.
different way than just kind of sitting and sharing,
Yeah.
with that, you know, the movement in the body. Like we store our emotions, we store our
Mhm.
traumas, we store all those things, we tuck them in all the nooks and crannies.
Mm.
And with, you know, like I say, with the drumming and the voice and getting that throat chakra, getting things heard, being scared but allowing that truth to come out,
Mhm.
and the movement and the dance like you had us doing in your one circle with the eyes closed.
Yeah.
And I've done that with another dear friend of mine too, and it's interesting to allow yourself to be vulnerable to actually experience that,
Yeah.
you know, that feminine, that deep feminine movement. And it doesn't matter what it looks like, nobody's judging you, nobody's
No.
watching you.
No.
you're literally going within that music, and you're just allowing the beat of that music and that
Mhm.
tones and the energy of the room to just hold you and move you. And so I think that's something that, we both bring in very different ways
Yeah.
to these sacred spaces and retreat, and we both understand the importance of them in the journey with our own bodies and our own
Mhm.
self-image and self-worth and self-acceptance,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So if you were to think of, one message for anybody who's looking for finding that freedom within, experiencing beautiful transformation in their journey, they've tried all kinds of different things and they're really intrigued by some of these alternative, really deep
Mhm.
holistic ways of healing, and they're looking at maybe one-to-one or retreats. What is something that maybe you could say to them to really invite them in and feel safe in this space to inquire and be curious?
I would say the number one thing, if I had to give it, it's hard to give it one word, but
Well, one or
uh,
two or three, whichever
right.
works.
I think the biggest thing I think I've learned throughout the retreat spaces, the healing circles, those type of things is we're number one to just say yes and try it. Be very
Hmm.
open-minded and be willing to maybe do something that you never thought you would do.
Yeah,
Because that's typically where we find the magic is, stepping out of those comfort zones and doing the unexpected.
yeah,
Um, and then number two, I think would be to give it another spin is like a big part of the work that we do is healing the sister wound,
yeah,
because we've been so conditioned to compare to each other and shame each other and judge each other and be against each other as women because that's what society has taught us to be.
yeah.
And it's really opening up to be such a beautiful awakening of women being safe with each other. And I think that's one transformative piece I've experienced for myself and a lot of other people have experienced is you come to these spaces thinking, I can't sit in front of a circle of women and speak my heart. They will judge me. They'll compare myself, they'll compare me to someone else and it's going to be horrible, right? Where that's not the case. So I would say come with that open, say yes number 1 and step out of those comfort zones. Number 2, be be very open to the fact that you are being surrounded by a container of safe women because
Yeah,
that's who's drawn to these things as people craving the exact same thing,
yeah.
and that to realize you're not alone in it, because I think that's also the other thing is we suffer
Hmm.
in silence and alone by ourselves for so much of our lives that
Yeah,
the connection piece to other people is what you will experience. You will
yeah,
experience this instant connection, this instant kind of sister healing environment
yeah,
that you never would think would happen. So it's
yeah.
all magic. So
It
yeah.
is. Oh, I love magic. I just love magic. Oh, I do. I do. So, if people are going to get a hold of you or follow you or get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to do that? Are you website? Which social media is your favorite? Where do you
Yeah.
spend your most time?
Instagram's probably my favorite, so Martina
Okay.
Health and Wellness on there.
Okay.
But you can find me like my website's a great place too, and then also just adding me a friend on Facebook. I do have a page Martina Health and Wellness, but I
Hmm.
love the connection piece of just add me as a friend. You can see my life, I can see yours, and like figure out if we're the right people for each other. So yeah,
I love it. Love it. Perfect.
yeah,
Well, I'm so grateful to just have you on here today and have this beautiful conversation and just to share a space of wisdom and transformation, even for ourselves, just in this conversation of almost, just over
mhm,
half an hour. And people have gotten to know you better and know the work that you do and kind of what we're doing together and a bit about the journey and what it takes to get there. So I'm just super, super grateful. And
yeah. Thank you, thank
I
you.
look forward to the next time because I feel like it's not the only time that we're going to get to chat because we got a lot to chat about. But
Right? Lots to do.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
anyways, I'm
Thank you
just
so
super
much.
grateful, and I look forward to the retreat and to many more, and to the next circle that you're having, which is
Yeah.
February
February
20.
20th. 20.
Perfect.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.